Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if y'all have watched She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, but yo,
that's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt and...
What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. Adriana Jonas, a.k.a. Look, I can't be expected to come up with witty Jawn names right now. The Eagles just got so severely decimated by goddamn Tom Brady. AKA Nate 3.0, back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. Coming up, I speak with Joe Puleo and Eli Wenger of the Bannister Effect. We have a great conversation about the creation of the Bannister Effect and their new album, A Life I Knew. And that is in a little bit. But first, a quick update on the state of the pod. First, hats. Okay, you may have seen me in images wearing a Yo, That's My Jawn mesh trucker hat. Well, I was finally able to put them into production. So, coming very soon, you will be able to purchase one of your own in a variety of colors. What color do you want? Because we got green, we got red, we got purple, we got camo, we got orange, we got yellow, we got black. Guys, it's like an assorted rainbow. So keep an eye out on the Facebook page and on the website for details to follow. And next, I don't want to jinx it, but I have some really magical stuff that is looking to occur on the horizon. Some crazy guests that I never imagined I would ever get the chance to talk to. One of those is coming next episode. And then possibly, should we get through this recent COVID surge, we might have a live event. A live event with one or two or maybe even three absolutely batshit insane guests that I am still in shock about. So guys, what I'm asking for you to do is to cross your little fingers and say a little prayer for your old pal Nate here. I couldn't be happier about where things are with this show, and I know I keep beating this drum, but I am so incredibly lucky to be afforded the opportunity to talk to such awesome and amazing creatives. And today is 100% an absolute example of that. My guests today may have met as landlord and tenant, but together they have created a magical album 7 years in the making. That album, A Life I Knew, explores love, death, divorce, the acceptance and reemergence of self in a mosaic of interconnected songs that has been described as a psychedelic Peter and the Wolf. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show Joe Puleo and Eli Wenger, the Bannister Effect. Little pre-roll to make sure we're going. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great Joe Puleo and the great Eli Wenger. Guys, the Bannister Effect is here on Yo, That's My Jawn. Thank you for joining me, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be here, man.
So I'm really excited to have this conversation, not just because, as I was just telling you guys, this is the first time I've talked to two people at the same time. It feels like I'm like stepping up to a whole new level here, but also I've been really enjoying you guys' new project, The Bannister Effect, and the album A Life I Knew. Fantastic stuff. So thank you for joining us, man. I'm really excited.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for the kind words.
Oh, absolutely. Well earned. So, guys, I guess we'll just start the same way that I start every conversation. Tell me each a little bit about yourselves, where you're from, where you grew up. We'll start with Eli.
Generally speaking, born and raised in the Philly area, Downingtown. Lived there for most of my life, moved out to sort of the boonies, so to speak. Played in a band when I was younger, Los Halos. We did the Philly scene for a while and had our ups and downs, I suppose. And then I owned Steel City Coffee House in Phoenixville for a period of time. From about 2010. I owned or managed it from 2007 through 2016. And now I run a nonprofit and make music with Joe.
Oh, fantastic. Joe, how about yourself?
Pretty much Phoenixville has been my home base for the majority of my life. Um, College and a few years after college, various places. But I always sort of come back to the Phoenixville area. Currently I'm about 10 minutes outside of Phoenixville in Spring City. But yeah, I would say without a doubt, Phoenixville is my home. My son has a 19460 zip code tattooed on his leg. Because that's sort of our place.
All right. Yeah, that's for life. That's those are forever. That's deep. That's deep. So when you guys were like kids, when you were growing up, like what was playing around the house? What was kind of your first experience with music? What can you remember like your parents listening to and stuff?
I mean, I have one of my first memories is being at the bottom of our steps and my parents listening to Willie Nelson on LPs back then. And there's a sound, I don't know, that captivated me. They didn't know I was up. It's one of those sneak down the stairs when they were kind of doing their thing or whatever. And I just remember sitting at the bottom of the steps and just, I don't know, there was something, like in my mind, I remember a fire and it maybe I've created things in my head, but it's a distinct memory that just, I don't know. It was my first love of music where I just sat and I listened to music because I couldn't sort of come around the corner. They discovered me. So I just sat and listened to the music and it was truly beautiful.
Oh man, that is amazing. Joe, how about yourself?
So pretty much the exact opposite. My parents, they didn't have music in the house per se. So I would listen to 8 tracks that my mom had of England Dan and John Ford Coley and Barry Manilow. And when my buddy started driving, he had like a early 70s Nova. And he was like, dude, you got to listen to the Springsteen album, The River. And I was like, oh, this is it. And then Jackson Browne. And then he did The Doors. So whatever he was listening to in the early 80s, he was my ride. So I listened to that. And then the late 80s, probably the biggest influence in music for me was my best friend in college, who's still my buddy today, and Eli knows him. He was like, dude, you got to listen to this and this and this. And he just fed me. So I was listening to, Marty Jones and Don Dixon and some just really cool stuff. We did a folk music thing where I actually got to know Cliff Eberhardt, who's from the Philly main line. And then he introduced us to John Gorka and Christine Wheeler. So it was like this weird, we would just sort of roll with whoever and whatever was there. And it was super cool. And that fed me into this world.
That right. Yeah, no, that's cool. So, do you how about like making music? When did you guys, like each of you, when did you start kind of like, oh, this is something I want to do myself?
Yeah. I mean, I remember, I don't know, I guess my friends and I, we went and saw a dance and some band played and, we said we could do that. And we didn't play instruments, but we said we could do it. And so we just went home. My brother had a guitar, so I started playing his guitar. Another guy his brother had a guitar, and we just tuned it down. That was the bass. And then one guy would bang on a cardboard. And we just started a band, and it kind of grew from there, over time. And I remember I went out and I bought a Tascam Porta Studio in 7th grade. It's a little cassette-based recording kind of 4-track, and just started recording our band and all my friends' bands. And it just kind of, from that point on, I knew that that's what I did. And then that evolved into a recording studio that I owned for many years. And it just sort of was always my love once I kind of was old enough to realize that I loved it.
Yeah. Oh man, that's incredible. So like when you're kind of crafting that early stuff, like, was it the music, making the music itself, or was it kind of the production? Because, I've heard tell that you're, quite the tinkerer, when it comes to recording.
I mean, I think it's both. I mean, I have a love for songs. I have a love for just a well-crafted song that takes you on a journey somewhere, and by the end of it, I don't know, you've sort of completed some sort of cycle and I don't know, investigated yourself on some kind of level. Something happens, even if it's a song about like a sandwich or something like that. If it's done right, it can, like, I don't know, take you to a place and really give you something. And so I love that. And sometimes that gets created through the actual construction of the song, and sometimes that gets created through all the sort of supernatural kind of ambiance that can be added through production and what you can evoke, beyond simply the music. And so I always had a love for both, and different songs played to different strengths. Some song was a really cool song and it didn't need any production. It just needed to be straightforward. And other songs just asked to be tampered with and manipulated in cool ways in order to kind of reach their peak. So it was always equal. It depended what the song needed.
What it asked for. Sure. That makes sense. Joe, were you always writing lyrics and poetry and stuff like that, or?
So in college, I was an English major and English lit major, and I wasn't a creative writing. I was 19th century British lit, but I took a creative writing class with a professor who we got along incredibly well. He was Italian, he was a poet, and we used to hang out at the campus coffee shop. He would get these Fulbright scholarships to go study Sanskrit poetry. And then when he'd come back to school, we'd hang out and we'd talk whatever nonsense. He'd drink tea with 19 lumps of sugar in it. But so I took his creative writing class. And to be honest, I wasn't very good. But I was super fascinated with any type of manipulation of words, whether it be poetry or just, any type of writing. I love the words. And I had read a lot when I was a kid. I started with the Hardy Boys series when I was in fourth grade. I read every one of them, and it's a voracious reader all through not so much middle school, but definitely high school, English major, and college. And when I went to see, Cliff Eberhardt play at a local coffee shop called the Red Raven, which doesn't exist anymore. And he sang a song with his brother, but he had recorded it with Richie Havens. And it's called The Long Road. So if you have any opportunity to listen to it and can find that, it's breathtakingly beautiful. And so afterwards, I went over to Cliff and I said, hey, man, that was freaking unbelievable. And we just struck up a conversation. I ended up getting his phone number because he used to play up at the Bottom Line in New York City all the time. He invited me up to New York City. Just a great dude. And then I heard a cover of Prince's When You Were Mine by the Blue Rubies. And it's, again, heartbreakingly beautiful. It's one of my favorite covers ever. And at that moment, I realized, some point in my life, I would love to be able to affect people the same way those songs affected me. But I had no plan. So, I study Buddhism. There's no attachment, right? I'm not attached to it. I just try to allow, as best as I can, things to be what they are. But in the back of my mind is, I would love to be able to do that someday.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's really, really, really fascinating. It's also interesting to me that some of your earliest kind of in that Nova exposure to music was Springsteen and Jackson Browne and guys who are incredibly lyrical. You mentioned the Doors, another one, Jim Morrison. So it totally tracks. It totally makes sense, kind of that path. When did you guys actually start doing your own stuff individually? When that it was, presentable, I guess, not just kind of banging on a cardboard box as you were mentioning or whatnot.
Don't knock banging on a cardboard box, man.
It goes far. It goes far.
I actually build these instruments called transmogrifiers that are all made of found pieces, and I turn them into percussion kits based on kind of how you accent them. They can turn into really interesting pieces of percussion that can add a lot of tone and stuff like that. So everything is an instrument in my world. But are you asking like when we started writing together or individually on our own?
Just individually on your own, when it became, kind of less a hobby and more hey, let me get out and start kind of playing out.
I mean, for me, it was even when we had the cardboard boxes.
Oh,
as soon
really?
as I realized, I don't know, right away I realized that it was something that I could do, for one, and it was mine. In terms of my family dynamic, wonderful family, but music, while it was existent, we were not pressured, but sports was sort of the family kind of go-to in terms of how we all kind of got together and knew each other. We were all good at them and we enjoyed them and stuff. But music, I was allowed to explore on my own. There was no pressure to do anything. Not that there was pressure to be sports, but just in general,
sure.
There was no expectation of what it would or would not be, and so I got to do it entirely on my own. and it spoke to an emotional sense in me. So right away, when I realized that like this was something that was just even available to me, I was all the way in from day one, and just sort of never kind of broke that.
Okay. And Joe, did you publish anything or?
Yes, and Nate. So by trade, I am a track and field coach. I actually just work with as a consultant to the first Olympic gold medalist I've worked with in my career, which was
awesome.
in Tokyo, which is really cool. So in 2010, my book Running Anatomy it ended up being the first edition. Was I wrote a second edition a few years ago, but at that time it was published by Human Kinetics, which is sort of the large sort of behemoth publishing company in exercise science in the United States. So I wrote Running Anatomy, and then I had the chutzpah to think I could write a novel. So I was writing the manuscript for a novel, and everything I ever heard about writing was just keep writing, write all the time, just write. So I would finish or not do work on the novel, and I would write just whatever. And I call them like word turnings, like wood turnings. And they ended up being the basis of the lyrics and that I gave to Eli.
Okay.
So I came to, this is my memory. I came to Eli and said, hey, dude, I have some words that I was wondering if you think they could be a song. And then later Eli told me, and I hope I remember this correctly, is like, dude, I hate when people do that shit because I never want to say to them, dude, these suck. I don't want to have to do anything with them. So we did one, and he sent me like an MP3 at like 3 a.m. in the morning. And I woke up and I listened to it, and I was thoroughly intoxicated by hearing my words set to really good music because Eli's incredible. We did one more song, and the third one I gave him the lyrics to, he said, dude, we're going to do an album. Or I think it was third or fourth. And I was like, well, I don't even know what you mean, an album. Like, I don't know nothing. I don't know how to play an instrument. I joked that when we were in the studio at Turtle, I didn't know the difference between a snare drum and a Wurlitzer. Like I couldn't, if you gave me a guitar, I couldn't possibly tell you how to make a sound that was even reasonably music out of a guitar. But Eli was like, we're in. And I'm like, okay, man, whatever you need. And he's like, well, I need as many songs as you can send me so we can do this. I'm like, well, I got a ton of them. So I just kept sending him songs. We would go down. We went to see a show at the Boot and Saddle. We saw Tommy Keene. And on the way down, I'm like, dude, I got 2 songs for you. I'm so excited about it. It was just these. And then next thing you know, we ended up doing this.
Next thing or 7 years.
It wasn't meant to be 7 years, but that's just how it worked out, right?
Sure. Just to rewind a little, how did you guys meet?
So I basically when I owned Steel City, Joe was my landlord.
Oh, okay.
And so started off as a basic business relationship, tenant, stuff like that, and then obviously. I don't know, we just, got to talking and got to know each other at least, a little bit deeper than that as time went by. And I don't know, I guess, I don't know how, I kind of forget time-wise how close of friends we were at that point when you gave me the first set of lyrics. But we were close enough that obviously you would share them with me. And so he shared me, and he's right. I hate putting people in a position where they have to evaluate my music in front of me. So like showing people music, they either like it, which is great, or they don't like it, and then they have to lie to you. And that's, right. I think, a really unfair position to put someone in. And it's also a position I don't like to be put in, despite the fact that I own a music venue and people are submitting, music to me all the time. But the thing about it is, it doesn't matter if I like it. What matters is that you're doing it. Doesn't have to be what I like. I just love the fact that you're being creative and doing something cool. So yeah, play a show. Let's do it, whether I like it or not. But hopefully I do like it. But when they ask, how do you like it? Then it's just like, I love the way the snare hits on that one song. Like, you have to make something up. You have to be, I don't know, which you want to do because you love someone. But anyway, so I don't like to be given stuff, and he gave me stuff. And I was a little nervous that if this is bad, how do I pretend with my landlord that I like something or be respectful of it, decline interest in it or whatever, but also kind of support creativity, whatever. It was good. And so I didn't have to worry about it.
That's great. That's great. Do you remember it the same way, Joe? Like, is that?
Yeah. So, one of the things I think we both pride ourselves on is we both have like integrity about our work projects. In Eli's what he does currently, it's super important, right? He's providing food to people who need help to be fed. And it's, that's sort of how we both live our life. And I think one of the reasons we connected is, I don't even want to say like landlord tenant, although that was the dynamic, is we both had integrity about, I think, how we went about doing our stuff. Like, even though I was Eli's landlord, I used to meet with him and his dad just to talk about the business. Like, how are we best serving what we're doing? Which isn't, I don't think, a real common thing.
No,
so
sure.
I felt super comfortable sharing my words and my feelings and thoughts with Eli. And to be honest, I did not know at that point how skilled Eli was as a musician and as a songwriter. I had heard, and he had told me that he had worked with other bands. I knew that he had a band, Los Halos. I had really no idea how talented he was. And then when we started to work together, we went to Turtle Studios to do it, and I saw how incredibly skilled he was. I was like, yo, I'm super blessed to have this person be the person that is working with me. Like, it was like, Nate, like I get this from you immediately. It's like Tennessee Williams. I always say this with Blanche Dubois and Streetcar Named Desire. I rely on the kindness of strangers. When you meet people, you're just open to them. You open your heart to them. Like, and that's how Eli and I were. Like, I'm opening up my innermost thoughts to you, but I trusted him entirely. And I knew that he, once he started working it, I was like, oh, this is the perfect person to do this project with.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense too, because that is a very vulnerable thing to take those lyrics and share them, especially, at the other end to receive them. Like, and I think, not to be weird or anything, but I think like it's almost kismet that it was you to, that you showed it to Eli, and Eli that you received it the way you did, because, that it easily could have gone 50 other different ways, but I think, and there is kind of a correlation that, you guys are both, outside of this, and just from the conversation we're having and from the things I've read in the press release and stuff like that, you guys are both focused on giving and helping. And I think, again, I occasionally get a little woo-woo about music and stuff like that, but I think that comes across in your music. Like, I think there is definitely kind of a through line there. I don't have a question for it. That's a statement. I don't know.
No, I think that's a really great observation, Nate, because we've talked about carrying threads through the whole LP of both lyrical, what we're trying to do lyrically, but also musically, sonically, with what Eli's done. And we've connected on that. The really cool part is, when I gave Eli the lyrics, there was no expectations of what came back. There was no my trying to control the narrative, being like, I want to hear this type of song. Every once in a while, I'd say, oh, I think this is an upbeat song, or I think this may be a slower song. But other than that, I don't know anything about music. So I left it entirely up to Eli to create whatever he felt moved him from the lyrics.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that totally makes sense. Eli, was there anything that, like, when you read it, you were like, holy crap, this is it? Like, was it immediate, or was it just like, oh, that's really good? And then, like, because I know you said you gave him like 3 songs before you said that, hey, we're going to make this album. But like, was it from the beginning like, oh, there is definitely something here?
So what's interesting is I didn't evaluate it that way necessarily, in the sense that I wasn't studying it for quality. I was reacting to it for inspiration.
Okay.
Did it feed something in me that allowed me to create from it? And so it did. First off, but I think one of the interesting things about this record is that it grows on you. It's a slow build. Like, I think it presents itself as these songs that are pretty accessible, all things considered, even though they have their moments. But the the more you listen to it, the longer that you listen to it, so to speak, it gains insight as it goes. The depth of these songs, both sonically and lyrically, reveals itself kind of over time, more and more and more. And in the initial lyrics that he gave me, I knew the basic context under which kind of he wrote them. A relationship in one case, and I think in both of the first couple cases, a specific relationship. And so I knew that what he was bringing to the table and the vulnerability that was there. So I respected that. And then it was just a matter of, did it feed my own kind of life? Because sometimes people can show you something very revealing and very beautiful, but it doesn't necessarily, for whatever reason, feed your life in that way, or at least to create from it, and this did. And then as I got into it and did it more and more, the depth of the lyrics started to reveal itself. So music wise, did you come at it with some sort of inspiration, like kind of what you wanted it to sound like? Because it does, it kind of flows through, I don't want to say through genre, but it does, kind of flow through kind of different sensibilities and stuff like that. Was that like your goal from the outset, or was there any point where you were like, no, I mean, that's all for me. That's always the goal. I hate to create the same song twice. Not that I don't, but the goal is with every song to try a brand new suit on and see how it fits, and make it your own. And so every song, by default, like there's a couple false starts, where I would start strumming something and trying to kind of see what came, and I'd realize, this is redundant of this idea or that idea or whatever. So there were some false starts, but most of the time, I can only think of two particular cases where that wasn't, out of the, I think 15 songs that, even though there's only 11 on the album, 15 songs we've done, there's really only two where the initial idea isn't the idea that we pursued all the way through. And usually, like, it wasn't built up. It's almost like from the first moment you start, it's either there or not.
Yeah. Yeah. As we've all kind of discussed here, like, there is that through line through this, as this was, generated from the novel that you essentially walked away from. Have you thought about making essentially the Bannister Effect novel, like a novelization of this?
Kind of was.
Yeah, Nate, it's fascinating you brought that up, because Jay Levine at Turtle said to me, like, you need to make your version of American Idiot. Like, this needs to be more of a play, a musical. And so I haven't even spoken to Eli about this, but one of the thoughts in my head is, like, what if I adapt the novel manuscript and sort of recreate it because in the novel, there's lyrics that some of them we didn't use at all on the album. Some of them never became songs that we used, but they're in the manuscript.
Okay.
So I think it's doable, Nate. This is a weird idea, but maybe we'll understand. I feel like due to COVID, I'm operating about 85% of my capacity.
Yep.
I've lost there's 15% approximately that I'm just not there. And in order to have a life with with my life, I have to be 100% there to be able to write that type of endeavor. So I don't know if now's the right time. I just wrote another song that I sent to Eli a couple weeks ago, and we have a couple songs that I think we're going to come out with either singles or an EP in the next year to keep the momentum going, because I think they're really good. But I don't know if I can tackle that project. I don't know if I had the bandwidth to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. What was the pandemic like for you guys? Fantastic, like it was for the rest of us, or how did it affect the project? I guess is more important. Like,
for me, I guess I don't know. Did it affect? I mean, like, it affected my life, obviously. But for me, it was kind of just. I don't know, just go up in the room and make music. I mean, essentially this project was completed during the pandemic. And so it's just a matter of every night go up into the studio. Not that I wouldn't do that anyway, but it's just I live in the woods, so it doesn't, change my day-to-day all that much. Work changed significantly. I mean, like, I run a food pantry, and so we we went from serving a couple hundred people a day to nearly 1,000. So it just went berserker. So that changed, and then music was the reward. But I don't know that it necessarily. I guess the thing about it is, with this particular project, the essence of what the project was completed before the pandemic, and it was sort of the final kind of full realization of sort of the chaos. Like, I look at songs as having a structure, a strong core, and then chaos around it that you have to harness in order to kind of really bring out and evoke the deeper levels that are happening in the music. And so the core was already finished, so how it was written, how it was initially kind of like recorded, with the drums, bass, those essential instruments was already done. I was more or less working on the chaos. So perhaps it just helped bring about a greater amount of chaos.
Yeah, totally.
So for me, as the lyricist only, it just provides more fodder for me to dig into my emotional life and come up with songs. Like, I mean, my notebook is full, my phone is full of all like ideas, the things that I've struggled with over the past couple of years. So it's all potential to write about. And, not that I would say that I didn't wanted to go through that, but I just tried to make the best of it. I mean, we ended up creating a small farm over here. We got a horse, we got chickens, we just kept adding animals, just because like, okay, well, let's look at a different way to live our life that can bring joy in a time that, we just changed the way we looked at the world. Yeah. And that included, taking care of things that needed to be taken care of. Like we even added more responsibility to our lives. So that's sort of how it affected my life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the album is coming out on the 21st, I believe, right? And I know I watched it, but I don't know if it was a private link or not. Is the Alone music video out there? Is that the world can check that out currently, like right this second?
The Again video?
Again, sorry. Yeah.
There's a YouTube page. I don't know it off top, but if you do Bannister Effect YouTube, it's out there, and it's on the Bannister Effect, Instagram and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of the promo clips for each song and whatnot, and was really fascinated by it. And that was kind of also where my narrative question came from about revisiting us. And
Dave Orsborn. Dave Orsborn, my buddy who did the video.
Fantastic work. I think, it does put just such an extra feel on the music and kind of, it's a beautiful painting, if you will. Is there any thought of doing kind of longer videos for those, or are those just kind of like little snippet paintings?
I love it. So he did a little short video for every song on the record, like a 30-second or 20-second little clip. Not sure about a long form video. They take time. Yeah. And they take money. So who knows? Maybe we'll win the lottery and get a whole slew of them. But I think that for me, the focus is on trying to kind of play some live shows and try to, I don't know, maybe improve how I can kind of get these songs across individually.
I can't believe I completely bypassed this in the recording. Did you play all of the instruments?
A significant portion, but obviously we work with some incredible people. I mean, like we recorded it at Turtle. So Ross Bellenois was part of that. John Coleman, Patrick Berkery, Matt Scarano. I can't remember the name of the keyboard player that played the honky tonk piano on one song, but my apologies. My wife and a good buddy did some harmonies and stuff. But there's lots of layers. And so, I would say, I don't know, the vast majority of what you hear is on some level informed by what I'm either directing or playing. But certainly amazing people were part of, putting incredible, thought and ideas into it.
Nate, when we did the basic tracking and we went in the studio and I was like, Patrick Berkery, right? You've played in and it listed all these bands. And then like a couple months later, the War on Drugs won the Grammy and Patrick had played on that album. And I was like to Eli, I said to him, I said, dude, this is a pretty incredible group of artists. I mean, John Coleman plays with Ben Arnold. Ross is fantastic on every level. And then it got even better. We're going to do a show at Steel City on the 19th of March. And Ross went out and got Jaron Olevsky, I guess, and who is Amos Lee's keyboardist and his music director to play keyboards. So I've been talking to friends and like, dude, this is like the like incredible. Like, who the hell put together that band? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, they just were kind enough to play on the album.
That's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Because
Yeah.
that was going to be my follow-up question is what does the live band then look like? And how is it translating live? Because there is, not that it's a complete, heady studio project, but there is a lot of, beautiful production on it. Does it translate live?
We'll see.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah, I mean, there. Obviously, this was all done during COVID. Finished. So there were no live shows. And so this will be the first show as a band. Besides, Bannister Effect shows that are essentially just me playing.
Yeah. Okay.
I've heard Eli play acoustic, and what we need was heartbreaking. Like, it was absolutely beautiful the way he sang it without a band. So I'm interested to see what it'll sound like with a band, because Eli's, he's sung it and listened to it 1,000 times now. So he's put his the extra patina of life from when the song started till now has added like a significant layer of gravitas to the song, and it's beautiful.
That's amazing. Have you thought about like kind of dropping any acoustic videos on the YouTube channel of any of the songs or anything like that? Or
it's a thought. Nothing yet, but I think that's something that'll happen at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. The so like we said, 21st, which this will come out on Monday, so that'll be sometime next week, right? Next Friday?
Yeah,
is that
right? Friday. I think Friday is the 21st.
Okay, yeah. So it'll be this Friday. We're in the future now. It'll be this Friday.
Yeah,
all the streaming services and stuff like that. Is it going out on?
That's what CD Baby tells me.
That's it. I love it. Have you, is there a physical copy? Like, are you doing physical copies of this or?
Yeah, we printed up, a limited amount of CDs that I'm sure there'll be some available at the show. And yeah, mostly they're just for friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. So is this a project you guys are looking to continue then? Yeah. Like, you said you're writing some more lyrics and stuff like that.
Without a doubt on my end, and I'm pretty confident Eli feels the same way, but given the pace of the work, the next album will be out in 2036. No, in all seriousness, we actually had a pretty good discussion about trying to do a song that is, Eli's done the song. It needs to be evolved, but, we had talked about like I'm in love with Mike Brenner and the steel guitar. So maybe reaching out to Mike and being like, hey man, like we got a great song that would perfect for a steel guitar. And I called Eli and I'm like, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, I think it could use the steel guitar. So I think that's something. And Eli, Eli's constantly working on his music. So it could be another Los Halos EP. We're just really supportive. Like I'm fully supportive of Eli's music separate from Bannister, but I'm also, there's a selfish part of me that just wants more Bannister Effect music out in the world. Absolutely.
Eli, what else are you working on besides this, with your own stuff?
So I'm trying to I haven't put out anything of my own in quite a while. So I'm trying to do a new project. I'm just calling it Bad Kids, and just basically trying to do a song a month put it up to Spotify and Bandcamp, and just so this record took 7 years, but it needed every minute of those 7 years. Like, I don't think it would have been done correctly in any less time, from my perspective. But that's the only record that needs to be done like that. That doesn't mean that that's how, you know what I mean? Like that record took with that record. That's a very thematic record. There's incredible depth of narrative and songs that connect with other songs and ideas. And it was a very thought out, you know, really kind of intentional process to create these layers. And it needed it. And I'm glad it has it. But that doesn't mean that every song necessarily has to be that. So to kind of put myself in a new perspective, I just want to do a song a month and not get too precious about it, and just kind of see what happens, try to create something interesting and new, and then move on to the next one and just see what that spurs in me.
Nate, you can call him on his bullshit, because the next album will take 10 years.
You may be right. This is a goal. I'm not saying it's but no,
yeah,
you know, every record I've made prior to this had a maximum of 16 tracks because it was all analog. So you couldn't get, I mean, I'm sure if you had tons of money and Peter Gabriel, you know, and whatever, you could, but my records never took that long prior, you know, because there was the limit of just the studio. With the digital world, I don't necessarily like working in the digital world, or at least it's taking me time to kind of figure out how to enjoy working in it.
Yeah.
And so you lose something, and what you lose is the ability to make decisions in the moment that are final, which, yes, that can suck, but it really kind of makes you choose as opposed to put off decisions. And with digital, you can always be exploring. And that's part of what, you know, is a challenge to me, is the fact that I can just keep on trying things. But that's the only way that I enjoy the process of working in digital. So it's like I'm trying to find that balance of exploring potential and possibilities while also having a finite something that keeps me in check. It used to be I had 16 tracks, so I'm thinking time might be an effective way to kind of put a limitation on that can hopefully spur a different type of creativity.
Yeah. You know, another thing you could try, this is something I do personally, because I have a crippling case of adult ADHD. And so one of the things I always do is I always announce things on this podcast before they're even close to being done. And I set a date, and then I let the audience force me to hit that time frame. And I've only missed it twice in 2 years.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, you can't be perfect, but it's a good way to at least keep your impulses somewhat in check.
Exactly.
Okay, Nate, I like that idea. So we're going to have a song called It's Okay, and it's going to be coming out by late spring. It's a single by Eli. There you go, man. I appreciate it.
You set the date. There it is. Late spring. You heard it here first, guys.
You don't call the date. I call the date.
No. Wait, man. It's
I'm the one recording the song.
It's us together. It's us together, man.
Moving forward onto the newer stuff, can you picture any scenario, Eli, where you'll be like, hey, here's some music, do something with this, to Joe, like backwards?
Interesting idea. It's not something that I've necessarily explored, but why not? Yeah, that would be an interesting, why not?
That's really cool, Nate. We've never even thought that way.
Yeah, because I was wondering, you know, you're kind of writing the music to the lyrics. It'd be interesting to see what would happen if you were writing the lyrics kind of to something that was already created, you know?
I like the way you're thinking. Interesting.
I wrote this totally inappropriate song that Eli will never do. So if he sends me music, I'm just going to send him back. And I'll be like, dude, we did it. See how easy that was?
I mean, you have to make up the melody. You're going to have to do it all, dude.
It might be worth it. It sounds like it might be worth it.
Yeah,
I think it's
challenge
a fantastic
challenge accepted.
All right. At this time, gentlemen, this is a segment we do on every single podcast with every single guest. And this is the first time I'm going to try to do it with multiple people. So bear with me if there's any hiccups. But are you gentlemen ready to enter the Jawntlet?
I'm so excited.
All right, here we go. This is the first part. These are the one-hit wonders. These are, I'll just call you out in order for an answer. These are quick ones. Your typical verses, if you will. Number one, Eli, Billy Joel or Elton John?
Elton John.
Yeah, Joe?
Oh, without a doubt, Elton John. My song, maybe one of the best songs ever written.
I also, lyrically, would it make sense that would be where you
without a doubt, yep.
as well. Number two, Debbie Harry or Joan Jett? Eli.
Debbie Harry.
Joe.
Joan Jett.
Oh,
Crimson and Clover. When I saw the question, I was hearing the song in my head, so it was super easy.
Debbie Harry is a huge part of my childhood in two different ways.
I'll tell you what, we just saw her pre-pandemic. So, 2019, it was her and Elvis Costello, and, God, they still have it. Like they're great. Absolutely great. Number three, Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner? Eli.
Aretha Franklin.
And Joe.
Tina Turner, but the second version of Tina Turner, like 1984, was it Private Dancer?
Yes.
So I hadn't listened to her and I saw that. I was like, oh shit, this is some awesome stuff. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, that's amazing. That is amazing. The next one, a pretty big one, Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Nirvana.
Pearl Jam. Corduroy, I absolutely love that song. And so Stone Gossard did a band called Brad.
Yes.
With the song The Day Brings, which is one of my top 10 singles of my life.
Brad had a little bit of Chuck Treese, Philly's own. So there we go. Keeping it thematic. There you go. Next one, Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
Stevie Nicks.
Yeah, Stevie Nicks. The Fleetwood Mac stuff's absolutely incredible.
Excellent. The big one, the biggest one, the one that this was all created for. Beatles or the Stones?
Beatles.
Saw it coming.
It's funny. I've heard you ask this question. I struggle because Beatles in so many ways, but the Stones are just fucking cool to hang out with and listen to.
Yeah.
You love the Beatles because it changed the face of music.
That's definitely true.
Yeah. So I would say Beatles.
I did this myself, this whole Jawntlet thing, and I got interviewed, actually by this puppet that's over my shoulder. His name's Petey. It's available on YouTube if you want to check it out. But my answer for that is the Rolling Stones. And the reason for it is because, like, with the Beatles, they changed music. All right. So it's almost otherworldly. But when I look at them, I think of like how brilliant Paul is, and I think of how brilliant John is and how brilliant George is. And, Ringo is also, an accomplished musician himself. But when I think about the Stones, I don't think about Keith and I don't think about Mick and I don't think about Charlie and I don't think about individuals. I think of them as a band. Okay. So in my mind, the way that I frame that question and the way that I can successfully say that I prefer the Stones over the Beatles is I think they're a better band. And so there's my little why this question exists.
Dig it.
I thought we were going to do Stairway to Heaven or Bohemian Rhapsody.
That is the next one. That's the last. That is the final one-hit wonder. Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven. Joe, you can go first since you were anticipating it.
I think it's almost the same question in a way. Bohemian Rhapsody, just because it's fun. I mean, that shit is just a great song to have fun to. So
definitely,
yeah.
Eli,
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah,
whole show.
Yeah. It's weird because I saw this. I took this from somewhere. I don't know. I'm not that original, but I took that question from somewhere. And when I first read it, I was like, well, everyone's going to say Bohemian Rhapsody. Who's going to say anything else? Right. But there's been some contention in there. And so I guess it is a valid question.
Okay.
Yeah. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, like, and well, of course it makes sense because you're a production guy. So like, I mean, that is just, that is the the testament of production right there. It's like that, and God only knows. It's like,
Right.
okay. The next section is the top 10 countdown. These are just a collection of favorites. I use Jawn in here interchangeably. So if you want to make it about music, it can be about music. If you want to make it about anything you want, let Jawn be whatever you want Jawn to be. Number one, we'll start with Eli. What was your first Jawn? What was the first thing you were obsessed with when you were a kid?
Dress up.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anything?
I love just every day. I had a huge box, and every single day, I mean, talking little kid, but it's one of my first memories is that every day, the first thing I would do is go to this box and try to create like characters.
That's awesome. I'm a cosplay guy myself. So,
Okay.
so
I haven't done it since I was, I don't know, 6. But
it's never too late.
When I was a kid, I was into it, man.
Never too late to get back into it.
All right.
Joe, how about you? What was your first Jawn?
Sneakers.
Yeah?
And Nike just started producing, I forget if it was the Bruin or the Blazer. It was a basketball shoe. And then I moved in the Converse Dr. J's. Because it was like you wore, what was that? The Chuck Taylors?
Yep.
And then I was like, this is it? And then all of a sudden those shoes started to come on the market. And I was like, oh, I'm so in. And it's continued to this day. And genetically, I always tell my son, he's got it on like the 18th chromosome because his whole room is filled with sneakers. He's always getting the retro Jordans. I mean, without a doubt, sneakers.
Well, now that's your Jawn, I'm going to have to ask, because also as a runner, what's your number one running shoe? What's your go-to?
So I don't know if you know this thing. I own the Haddonfield. I founded the Haddonfield Running Company, which is now this running company of South Jersey with like 4 stores. And it was a wonderful store, one of the top 40 stores in the United States, rated by like a trade industry. So the simple answer is whatever is the best shoe for your foot. So whatever has the biomechanics that are appropriate for your foot and the shape of the shoe to fit your foot. That's the best shoe.
Okay.
So my buddy just took the head of marketing for Salomon trail shoes, which is like a European brand, and they're fantastic. So I'll say Salomon running shoes.
Okay.
That's what I wear.
Is that really what you wear?
But for hiking. But yeah,
okay,
they're awesome. I love them. I bought another pair and I took them back because I like these better.
Unbelievable. I'm for trail. I'm an Adidas Terex guy myself. So
okay.
Yeah. Number 2, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now, Eli?
Hiking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I moved out to the wilderness. I shouldn't say the wilderness. I moved out, but I live on a mountain. I live in the woods on a mountain, and I have my little pup, and we just go hiking every day, and I love it.
That's awesome. Is that a post-pandemic pickup, or is that a?
Yeah. Early on in the pandemic, pandemic was one of those things that, like, for me, my experience with it was it became very clear what I needed to change in my life, and that a lot of things needed to change in my life, and so a lot of things did, and one of them was I started hiking every day, and I love it.
That's awesome. That is very cool. Joe, how about yourself? What's your current Jawn?
Horses. So not pretentiously at all, but I grew up, my uncle raced thoroughbred horses, and it wasn't like we weren't fancy or anything like that. We raced at like Penn National and a lot of different tracks. But recently, my wife, who rode when she was young, got back into it with our little one. And we just ended up getting a Bob Baffert trained horse who was on the path to ride a race in the Kentucky Derby before it broke its shin, and ended up getting put in a retired racehorse adoption situation, and we ended up with it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I love this horse. I give it snuggles. So I had 2 German Shepherds who passed away, and I think their souls came back in this horse.
That's unbelievable.
He puts his head next to me, and like it's for a former thoroughbred, like mildly precarious to be like that close when you don't really know it, because we just got it. And he just snuggles with me, and he's like, "Yo, we're all good."
That's so cool.
Absolute blessing in my life.
Will he make an appearance on any of these albums?
I don't know. He's super cool. Like, I've invited Eli over to the barn just to meet him because I guarantee Eli will be like, "Oh, this is the coolest." So I think that could happen. We get a couple pictures of this guy. He's actually incredibly handsome. The moment I saw him in Lexington, Kentucky, I said to my wife, "That's the one." And she's like, "What do you mean that's the one? We got 800 horses to look at." And I'm like, "Nope, that's the one."
It's awesome. Love at first sight. I love it. Yep. Number 3, Eli, what was your first concert?
Journey, JFK Stadium, Monsters of Rock, 1980.
Yes, very nice, very nice. Joe, how about yourself?
Either Dan Fogelberg or Jackson Browne at the Spectrum in 84-ish.
Okay, perfect. Number 4, what was the last concert you were at?
I just went saw Flaming Lips a couple months ago, and I'd seen them a bunch of times, but it did the heart good. I love the energy of their shows. It's just good medicine.
I saw them a few times, but my favorite Flaming Lips show I've ever been to was I was in college and they played like the Hadley Union building or whatever it was. And their entire backdrop was just Christmas lights still in the packages. So like it was a wall of Christmas lights in the packages. And I thought it was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And I swear I was sober. Joe, how about yourself? Cool. What was the last show you went to?
I saw an incredible show at 118 North in Wayne in November with Dawn Hyatt, John Fay, and Eli Wenger. And it was great. John has become a friend. I wrote a record review in 94, or a concert review of John in 94. And it said, "I'm not sure if the band will make it, but John Fay is an absolute superstar." And we reconnected recently. And so John, Eli, and Dawn, great show in the round. It was fun as heck. Just a really nice night.
That's so cool. I would have loved to have been at that show. That would have been a phenomenal show. I just saw that he's co-hosting the open mic night at the reopening Dobbs. Yes.
Yeah.
Be neat to...
Eli and him just actually played a house concert a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really? Where at?
I somewhere in Ardmore, I think, just outside of Ardmore. I could be wrong about that. I MapQuested it all the way, or I guess Google Maps, whatever. But no, John was kind enough to invite me to play a couple songs at a show that he had arranged.
That's
nice
so
family,
cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, very good guy. Very good guy. Number 5, what was your favorite concert? What was the best concert you were ever at, Eli?
I feel bad not saying the Grateful Dead concert because I went to so many and they were such a huge part of my life. But I saw Jane's Addiction at the TLA in 1988, I think, or 89. And I remember saying to my friend when we left, like, I'm different now. And I went in as like a kid and I came out and I'd seen something and I just didn't know what I'd seen. It was a shaman on some kind of level. And, but I didn't know, I was in 7th grade or something like that. And I just remember riding home in the trunk, just mesmerized, trying to understand what I'd just seen because I'd never seen anything like it.
That is a fantastic answer. That's crazy. At the TLA, I couldn't imagine.
Just happened to hear about a thing and took a chance, and it was amazing.
Fantastic. Joe, how about yourself?
Chestnut Cabaret, early to mid 90s, the Judy Bats. So it's a band, I don't even know where they're from. I want to say like Tennessee. And it absolutely blew my mind. And the dude the lead singer came out on stage and played a song called I Want to Fuck Your Hair. And we lost our shit. He sang, his voice was at 4 different octaves throughout the song. It was unbelievable. And I turned to my buddy and go, what the hell just happened in our, same with Eli. What just happened? There's no way a dude that we don't really know can do this. It was absolutely unbelievable. Phenomenally underrated band.
How did you end up there? Were they like an opener or something, or
No,
just went?
They were the main act. My buddy, who was more into music at a deeper level, he's like, he lived in Jersey, and he's like, hey man, the Judy Bats are coming. I don't know who the hell are the Judy Bats. He's like, dude, just show up. So I meet him down at the show, and I left, and I was like, oh boy, that like everything's different at that point. You're like, whoa, I saw something that like crazy.
Those are the best shows. That's like my favorite thing. And that's why I really like festivals and stuff like that, is like catching bands who I would never go see or anything like that. And they just, grab you and just kind of own you for the entirety of their set. Like there's nothing better. There's absolutely nothing better.
They have a song called Intense Beige, Nate, if you're interested. Just the title of the song is awesome. But they have a couple great albums. Down in the Shacks Where the Satellite Dishes Grow, I think, is probably their most famous album. But if you look them up, you can find it. And you can find that encore. I think it's on YouTube.
Oh, I definitely got to check this out. Yes, I definitely need a little Judy Bats in my life.
Absolutely.
Number 6, who have you never seen live that you wish you would have? They can be both living and or dead.
I always wanted to see Prince.
Same. That is I on the interview with the puppet. I told the story. He's my answer as well, because my parents in '84 during the Purple Rain tour actually bought a ticket for me to go with them to see Prince, but then heard about what the stage show was like and would not take me with them. So.
Yeah, good parents. Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Well, my first 2 concerts were David Bowie during the Serious Moonlight tour in '83, and my second concert was David Bowie during the Glass Spider tour in '87. So yes, I had very, very good parents.
Nice.
Joe, how about yourself? Someone you've never seen live that you wish you would have?
This is going to come out of left field, but he plays under the band name Eels.
Yes.
I love that dude. And like, I'm going to look this up right now. He's got the song Rock Hard Times, which I play on endless loop at my house right now during pandemic. But I would love to see him. I don't even know if he's playing out anymore, but I have all his albums. I think he's fantastic.
There's that Eels song from, the Grinch soundtrack that made every single one of my Christmas playlists that I've made for the past 15 years or whenever that soundtrack came out. I love them. They are fantastic.
Yeah.
Number 7, name an unappreciated Jawn. Name something you wish had some more shine to it. We'll let Eli go first.
I was thinking about this in terms of music. I don't know. This is going to sound so stupid, but seeing yourself in others.
That's not stupid.
And seeing others in yourself and the ridiculousness that goes on and how we perceive people. It just drives me bad.
I'm telling you, the past 2 years, man, like any kind of introspection and recognition of self has been enormous. And I've emerged from this pandemic a different person, and I like to think that I've emerged from this pandemic a better person. But I am definitely a lot weirder.
Weird is good. Weird is good.
Weird is good. Weird is good. Joe, how about yourself?
Can I give you 2, Nate?
Sure, you can give me as many as you want.
Non-music related. So I've been listening to a ton of podcasts, and I'm a sports guy because it's what I do as a career. So there's a podcast, the Green Light Podcast.
Chris Long?
You got it. Do you listen?
I do listen.
He is absolutely phenomenal. Plus, he loves music.
Yes, he does. He's on my wish list of guests. I would love to pick his brain for
that dude is a special guy, and his dad is a special guy. The whole family is like super cool.
And another person who gives, man. Another person who definitely gives back. And that was how I became a fan of him, actually, was just finding all of the philanthropic stuff that he did. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. And he's on our team right now. I was like, oh, and then I saw him at the Super Bowl parade wearing an Iverson jersey and a fur coat. And I was like, okay, you're my spirit animal for the rest of my life, I guess. So
totally. And he's like literally one of us Philly guys, even though he grew up like in Charlottesville, he's still, he's absolute dude. And the other oddly is, do you like hot sauce?
I do like hot sauce, yeah.
My favorite hot sauce is a brand from Seattle City called Hank Sauce. And they have a flavor. My favorite is camouflage. Now you can start to see it at chain supermarkets. Like this shit is the Jawn.
Yeah.
It is so freaking good. So I give it to people when I go to their homes out of state or they come in. I'm like, dude, you need to get this hot sauce. So we just give it away. So
okay, I definitely have to be on the lookout for that. That sounds phenomenal.
Yep, there you
go. Next one, number 8, and I know this is a tough one, but what's your favorite album? Go with Eli.
Bob Dylan and the band, The Basement Tapes.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. And also unfinished. So kind of the they didn't take 7 years on it. And that's interesting.
Well, they didn't release it for 7 years. So there may be something.
Yeah. So there's still some time. All right. I get it. That's fair.
No, but I just love the haphazard playfulness of it. And just, I don't know. It's like these old timey songs that were created in modern times and yet somehow feel fully authentic. I love it.
Yeah, and it's one of the, I mean, multiple reasons, but one of the big reasons why I miss Levon Helm is just he just added such an authenticity to everything he touched, even stuff he was just playing on. Like he just, is definitely musically missed in my heart for sure.
For sure.
Joe, how about yourself?
Newfound Glory. Coming Home.
Interesting. I would have.
So I've seen him a bunch of times. I love it. This album, I literally, if you played it, I could sing every word through the whole album. And my wife and I got married this summer to Too Good to Be, which is song number 8.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Very cool. And very lovely. Very lovely. Also, congratulations.
Thank you. And Nate, there's a 1A. There's Los Halos, Leaving Virginia.
I like it. Keeping it on brand.
Eli's too modest to acknowledge, but it's without a doubt one of my favorite albums I've ever listened to.
Very cool. That is very cool. Look at the love. I love it. Number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they put out, even if you have to be apologetic for it. Eli.
Tie, but it's the same. Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Well, I love music that is created in the moment. And both Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead never let preconceived ideas of what a song should be interfere with the song actually is. And they let the song be what it really wanted to be. And as a result, they were always recreating it. And I'll go see Bob Dylan live every time. It might not be good. But usually in every performance, there's one moment where he's found a whole new way to kind of express a thought that you've heard 1,000 times before because he's singing it in that moment for real. And a whole new emotion is conveyed and a whole new context is put forth. And I love the way he can constantly reinvent even his own material and the way the Dead did the same thing. And so it's always interesting. I'm always hearing new things and new approaches to things that I've heard 1,000 times.
Very true. Very true. And completely agree. One on the way that I don't know that the Dead were ever settled on what a song was.
Right.
And
it's always growing.
And that is a goal of something that I don't know that I should emulate. but always want to. Like, I sometimes listen to early recordings of things I've done in the past that, like, I'm still playing these songs and I'm like, oh, this is a completely different song. And I don't even remember ever playing it like this. But I do have to ask one question now that you've named Dylan in that as well. Does that also include all 18 minutes of Murder Most Foul, or whatever the title of that song was that just came out?
So I actually think I did so I did a review of that album, and I love this record because I the way I express it, at least in the review, is that it's the first album by Robert Zimmerman, confronting the mythology of Bob Dylan with the realization that he's going to die soon. You know, he's hitting a point where he's acknowledging his own mortality, and he has to confront his own myth. And I think that song is about him identifying the birth of Bob Dylan the same year as the assassination of JFK, and following the mythology of both as they evolve and all the different peripheral things. And it's seeing himself as part of, you know, this American mythology. And can I listen to it all the time? No, but I love that he constructed something that allows him to finally, deal with his own sense of importance in the world and what he accomplished, while also sort of looking at it from a human character.
Son of a bitch, you're going to make me go listen to that song again. You just, you did it. You did it. You're going to make me go revisit it. Now you're going to make me eat my words. I hope you're happy.
Sorry, man.
That's it. No, that's awesome. That is awesome. And a fantastic answer. Joe, how about yourself? What name an artist?
So I don't necessarily think I have to apologize for much of his work, but Bob Mould.
Yeah.
So, Husker Du. His workbook, his first solo album, was absolutely killer. I loved Sugar. Modulate, the electronic album, maybe the one that was sort of a little bit, not on the beaten path for Bob Mould. Silver Age was a return to form. Yeah, his memoirs are incredible. I think he's absolutely phenomenal, thoughtful, just a freaking great musician. And when he's on, I don't think it gets much better.
Do not disagree. Here's a little Nate trivia for anyone who gives a shit, and I know there's not many, but anyway, a little Nate trivia is I play when I play live and I play acoustic, I play a Line 6 Variax, and the reason I play that is because I saw Bob Mould using it when I saw him at the North Star, and I was like, this guitar does everything and I need to own it immediately. I'm pretty sure I left that show and went and tracked one down and bought it because I was just totally blown away by everything he could do with that guitar. And then part two, I'm Sorry Baby, But You Can't Stand in My Light Anymore is one of my favorite songs of all time. Okay. Like, absolutely phenomenal. And just such a perfect line as a title. Like, it's just, I love that dude.
I'd say It's Too Late is probably the song that, like, when I hear it, it just evokes so much emotion in me. The dude's incredible. It's interesting. So do you miss the North Star?
I do. I know. A lot. It was such a great room. It was actually the very first time I ever saw John Fay live was at the North Star.
Were you at his record release party?
For Ike. For Parallel.
We were there for the Caulfields.
It
was so good, Nate. It was so much fun. But that was a great room.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Fantastic. I do miss that. There's a lot of places I miss. That's one of the things that's like, I guess it happens all the time that venues open and venues close, but like a lot of the ones that are closing now are the ones that are really close to my heart. Like you mentioned Boot and Saddle earlier, like Boot and Saddle that, was devastating to lose, but we strive on. We keep going. We'll have more venues, I hope.
One of the blessings about Eli was he bought such incredible shows to Steel City. I mean, phenomenal artists came through that. I remember his dad wanted to see Chris Smither. So next thing you know, Chris Smither appears. You're like, what the hell is going on? Like, it was, fantastic.
That's awesome. That's a flex. That's a flex. Oh, is that who you want to see, Dad? Well, guess what?
I can't take credit for that though. That was Lance and Jane that put that together. So I loved having him, but
no, I don't think
I gotta
so.
give credit to some other folks.
I think it was when you guys owned it.
It was, but we didn't book it.
Got it. Okay, got it.
Okay, yep. All right, fair enough. The 10th and final top 10 countdown. What is your favorite Jawn of all time? Again, doesn't have to be music, but if you would like it to be, you very much can make it a piece of music or something. Eli, what do you got?
Man, I guess really losing yourself and dancing at a Grateful Dead show. Nothing. I don't know. Nothing better. Wait. I mean, like when the right moment, when you're in the right frame of mind,
yeah,
and you can go to a show and completely let go of ego and just dance your ass off for 2.5 hours. I love
that. That is so true. Like the and you said it perfectly, like letting go of ego, like that is such a release, especially when it's connected with a crowd of other people doing the same thing. Like there's nothing beautiful. Like it. There is nothing like it. Joe, what's your favorite Jawn of all time?
So like to keep it out of the personal realm, like the birth of my kids and all that, without a doubt, the Eagles winning the Super Bowl and going to the parade. Like I was crying and my son, who was, I think 16 at the time, is like, Dad, why the hell are you crying? I go, honey, I've waited 50 years for this thing. You've waited 16. Like, you have no idea what this is like. And then the parade. I mean, that whole 3 weeks, like you were just like, everything's good in the world. Like the axis is correct. We're all good.
It's really funny because I was like, I don't care what this team does for the rest of my life. Like they brought me so much joy in that moment, and yet here I am every Sunday throwing my goddamn shoe at the screen.
Same thing, man. Yeah, same thing. Like the next year, everybody's like, it doesn't really matter if they're good or not. I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then like third game, you're like, Wentz, what the hell is bring back Foles? Come on, this is craziness.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Well, so you guys had mentioned you got that show coming up in March, and of course the album is coming out on this Friday. What's the plan? What's the release plan? What do you guys got coming up?
We did some singles. We put out a few singles ahead of it. I think we did an interview with like a videographer who's gonna chop about 50 seconds per song of the interview out and sort of send those out as promotion of the whole album. So we're going to start with like after the album's released, just keeping ourselves in front of the people that care about the album. And then, like I said, It's Okay. It'll be coming out in late spring, the single. So, we'll have that going on. And yeah, man.
That is great. That is great. And Eli, what about solo? You said you didn't. You got the Bad Kids singles. Like how are you releasing those anytime soon?
Well, theoretically, I don't know how long. I have 1 month to finish it, but that doesn't mean it comes out like on the first day of the month because I have to submit it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the goal is to do one song a month. I'm trying. Right. I got the first song started, so we'll see.
Awesome.
But I'm just trying to kind of evolve every day a little bit.
It's all you can ask for. Just a one step every day. I love it. Guys, anyone listening, please definitely jump on whatever streaming service you have or wherever you find music and treat yourself to A Life I Knew by the Bannister Effect. As I said, I've been listening to it for the past week and a half or so, or whenever Maggie sent it to me. And it is absolutely phenomenal. And I am so thankful, not just for you guys coming on the show, but for creating that music and finding each other, man. Like, it is really something special that you guys put together. So thank you.
Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you having us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Man. Thanks, Nate. Really appreciate the kind words and having us on the show.
Yeah, this is fun.
My thanks again to Joe and Eli for joining me on the show today. You can find more about the Bannister Effect on their Instagram at Bannister Effect and on YouTube and Facebook by searching for the Bannister Effect. And be sure to check out their new album, A Life I Knew, available on all streaming services on January 21st. Now, you know the deal. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. And if you still haven't earned yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout Merit Badge for Citizenship of the World, you can do it just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for articles and merchandise. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Yo That's My Jawn and search Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. And while you're there, why don't you just go ahead and like and subscribe the heck out of that ish? We want to hear from you. Reach out, and touch some Jawn. Well, that's all she wrote. Who is the she in that? That's all who wrote. What if we weren't ready for it all to be over and she just had a hand cramp and decided to put down the pen? Why have we chosen to live by her decision to write no more? Why? Who does she think she is? Well, the world will never know, because that's all she wrote. Blue skies! Until next time, everybody!
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be measured. You ain't being judged.
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Natalie Runkle, and the incredibly brilliant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com. Or you can leave an audio message for us and possibly hear yourself on a future episode by visiting anchor.fm/ytmj/message. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn.